imagine this scenario. It is 9 p.m. on a Friday.
Oh, no. I already know where this is going.
Right. You're finally winding down from a brutal week. Maybe you're sitting on the couch watching a movie. And then your phone buzzes.
The absolute worst feeling.
You glance down, and it's an email from one of your biggest clients. You open it up, and all it says is, "This is unacceptable. I expected better. Call me first thing Monday."
Yeah, just hearing that makes my heart rate spike. It's that immediate, physiological drop in your stomach.
Exactly. And your weekend is completely ruined. You spend the next 48 hours just running through every possible scenario.
Drafting defensive responses in your head while you're trying to eat dinner.
Yes. Or like panic scrolling through your project files to see where things actually went wrong.
And from a biological perspective, your brain doesn't really differentiate between that email and a physical threat. Your amygdala just fires up.
Well, today, our mission on this deep dive is to equip you, especially those of you navigating high-stakes professional English, with a linguistic toolkit.
A toolkit designed to ensure you never have to feel that kind of professional panic again.
Right. We're digging into the precise phrasing, the tone, and really the psychology of handling difficult workplace conflicts.
Because the underlying premise here is incredibly empowering. Your response to that Friday night email, the exact vocabulary you use, will single-handedly dictate the outcome.
It is literally the difference between losing a client or, actually strengthening that working relationship.
Exactly. It's not about improvising. It's about utilizing structured communication.
So I want to look at this chronologically because difficult client behavior doesn't usually happen in a vacuum.
No, it evolves over time.
Right. So before we can draft a response, we need to diagnose the specific threat. The sources actually break difficult clients down into 4 distinct archetypes.
Yeah, and the first one is the demanding client. This is the person who wants more work delivered faster and usually for free.
Classic. So the challenge there is holding boundaries without being rude. What's the second type?
The angry client. They are highly emotional, venting, and actively escalating the situation.
And since we want to focus on key vocabulary today, to escalate just means to make the conflict worse or more intense, right?
Exactly. They are turning up the heat.
Okay, so we have demanding and angry. What's the third?
The unrealistic expectations client. They expect a premium, bespoke outcome on a very basic budget or a compressed timeline.
They just want the moon by tomorrow.
Right. And the fourth is the silent or unresponsive client. They completely ghost you, and then they complain when nothing happened.
That one is so insidious because at first you just think, great, they're busy, I can focus on other things.
But what's actually happening is that your project timeline is actively decaying.
So it's like medical triage in an emergency room. You wouldn't treat a broken arm with cold medicine. And you can't use boundary-setting language on someone who just wants to be heard.
That's a perfect analogy.
But of these 4, which one poses the most immediate danger to a project's survival? I mean, I feel like it's the angry client, right?
Oh, absolutely. Because this is where most professionals make their first fatal error. They try to apply logic to an emotional explosion.
Like trying to explain the timeline to someone who is actively screaming at you.
Right. When a client is in that angry phase, their prefrontal cortex, which is the logical part of the brain, is effectively bypassed.
Wow.
You cannot reason with someone in a state of professional rage. You have to actively de-escalate the emotional temperature first.
And de-escalate meaning to actively lower the tension.
Yes. But doing that requires incredible discipline because our natural instinct is either to get defensive and fight back or
we just grovel and over-apologize for everything.
Exactly. And both of those are catastrophic. So the sources outline a strict 3-step framework for de-escalation.
Okay, let's break that framework down. Step 1 is simply to acknowledge.
Right. You have to let them know they've been heard. You use phrases like, "I hear you," and that's genuinely frustrating.
Or maybe something like, "Thank you for letting me know directly."
Yes. But honestly, what's equally important here is what you must absolutely never say.
Oh, I know this one. The number 1 phrase to completely eradicate from your vocabulary is calm down.
Yes. Saying calm down has literally never in the history of human interaction actually made someone calm down.
It's basically an accelerant. It's dismissive because it tells them their emotional response is inappropriate.
It's a microaggression. You also want to ruthlessly avoid saying, "That's not my fault."
Even if it really isn't my fault.
Even if it's completely their fault, saying it in the heat of the moment instantly positions you as an adversary. You're just putting up a wall.
So we acknowledge the frustration without throwing gasoline on it. which leads to step 2, validate more without admitting fault.
This is where the linguistic nuance gets really, really tight.
The suggested phrases here are things like, "You're right that this isn't where we want to be," or "Your concerns are absolutely valid."
Yes, those are perfect.
But wait, I have to push back here on behalf of the listener.
Okay, go for it.
If I look at a furious client, knowing they caused the delay, and I say, "Your concerns are absolutely valid," are they going to use that against me?
How do you mean?
Like an admission of guilt. I mean, it feels like I'm handing them a loaded gun.
That is the exact fear most learners have, and it's why so many professionals stumble here. They over-apologize.
So how is validating their feelings different from taking the blame?
We have to separate the emotional reality from the operational liability. Validating a client's feelings is fundamentally different from admitting responsibility.
That feels like a very fine line. How does it actually work in practice?
Think of it as standing shoulder to shoulder with them rather than face to face. When you say, "You're right that this isn't where we want to be," you are validating an objective fact.
Right, because nobody wants a delayed project.
Exactly. You are aligning yourself with their frustration, but you haven't said, "It's my fault we are here."
That is such a crucial distinction. You're basically acknowledging that it's raining without claiming you made it rain.
Beautifully put. You're just saying, yes, getting wet is awful.
Okay, I love that.
And once you've successfully validated that emotional state, you immediately pivot to step 3. Own the next step.
So I'm not owning the problem, I'm owning the resolution.
Exactly. You say, "Let me look into this immediately and get back to you by noon." You aren't promising a magical fix, just structured action.
Okay, let's actually test this out. I want to do a full role play of this de-escalation sequence right now.
Oh, I'm ready. Let's do a full scene.
I'll play the professional who's trying to hold the line, and you play the angry client who just sent me that Friday night email.
All right. Ring, ring. We are on the phone Monday morning.
Hmm.
And I'm already agitated.
Okay, I'm picking up.
Look, I am really unhappy with how this has been handled. I expected a lot more from your team. The deliverable was late, and it wasn't what I asked for at all.
I hear you, and that is fair feedback. Let me pull up what we submitted and go through it with you. I want to either fix this immediately or figure out exactly where the miscommunication happened.
Well, I mean, I've been very patient, but this is actively eating into my timeline now.
You have been patient. And you're right that this isn't where we want to be with the timeline. I want to honor that. Here's what I'm going to do right now. I will personally review the entire file against our initial brief. By 2 p.m. today, you will have a revised schedule and a clear path forward. How does that sound?
Yeah, and scene. That was excellent.
It actually felt surprisingly empowering to use that script.
Notice what you did there as the professional. You didn't grovel. You didn't apologize for the work being wrong because you haven't even investigated it yet.
Right. I strategically use the word miscommunication, which leaves room for the fact that the error might actually be on their end.
Exactly. You entirely owned the momentum of the resolution. The person controlling the structure of the conversation holds the power.
Okay, so we've de-escalated the anger. The emotional temperature is down. But anger is usually a smokescreen, right?
Almost always.
Once they calm down, you usually discover the root cause. The client isn't just upset. They actually want us to do extra rounds of revisions that weren't in the contract.
Ah, yes. We are officially dealing with a demanding client.
Which means we are moving from managing emotions to managing scope. And we need to introduce a major vocabulary term here: scope creep.
Scope creep is the silent killer of profitability.
It's when a project slowly expands beyond the original agreed boundaries.
Yes. A client asks for a tiny favor, then another, and suddenly your margins are gone and your team is totally burned out.
So the challenge is pushing back without breaking the newly repaired relationship. And another vocab word for our toolkit, pushback, just means respectful professional resistance.
Correct. And the pushback spectrum is fascinating because you aren't actually telling them no. You're just changing the default option.
It's like being a bouncer at an exclusive club. There's a 3-level spectrum. Level 1 is soft pushback.
How does the bouncer handle level 1?
Very collaboratively. The bouncer gives a friendly smile and gently points to the velvet rope. You say, "That's a great idea. It's actually outside our current scope, but I can put together a quick proposal to add it."
Right, you're waking them up to the reality that actions have price tags. Because often clients genuinely don't realize they're causing scope creep.
But what if they ignore the soft pushback? Then we move to level 2, professional pushback.
Right.
The bouncer steps directly in front of the rope. You say, "What we agreed on covers X. You're describing an additional deliverable. Adding this would shift our delivery date.
And deliverable being the tangible product or service you are handing over.
Exactly.
At level 2, you are introducing the structural consequences of their request, time and resources.
And if they still demand it, we hit level 3. Firm pushback. The bouncer's now checking the VIP list and demanding a cover charge.
Let's hear the firm pushback phrasing.
To be completely transparent, if we add this, it will impact the budget by 20%. I need your explicit approval before we can proceed.
That is so strong.
Yeah. But wait, I feel like saying that could reignite the fight. How do you know when to escalate from soft to firm without alienating them?
It works because it strips the emotion out of the denial. You are relying entirely on the contract and the budget as your shields.
Ah, so it's not personal.
Right. People don't respect professionals who act like doormats. They respect experts who hold firm boundaries. By framing it as a choice, you return the agency to them.
That makes total sense. And that directly connects to how we handle the third archetype, the client with unrealistic expectations.
Yes. Sometimes they aren't malicious. They genuinely just don't understand how the work gets done.
They want a massive feature added by tomorrow. And the instinct for so many of us is to just people pleasers.
Which leads to the cardinal sin of client management.
Let me guess. Overpromising and underdelivering.
Exactly. Another crucial vocab phrase. You commit to an impossible deadline just to avoid an awkward conversation today.
But you're basically guaranteeing a catastrophic conversation next week when you fail to deliver.
Exactly. You are just borrowing peace today at the cost of a war tomorrow.
So, to avoid that trap, the sources suggest something called the bad news sandwich.
I know the term sounds like a cliché corporate training buzzword.
Yeah, like hiding an insult between two compliments.
But the psychological mechanism here is actually about framing constraints collaboratively.
Okay, what is the structure?
Layer 1 is acknowledging their goal.
Wow.
Layer 2 is being totally honest about the constraint. And Layer 3 is offering an alternative path forward.
Okay, let's hear an example of this sandwich in action.
I completely understand you need this by Friday. The challenge is that our current bottleneck means we need to deprioritize your other deliverables to make it happen. Would you like to discuss that trade-off?
Oh, wow. Let's break down why that works. First, I understand you need this by Friday. What does that do psychologically?
It prevents them from feeling like you are an obstacle. You share their ambition.
Then the constraint. The bottleneck means we need to deprioritize X. I'm not saying I can't do it. I'm saying the physics of the project won't allow it.
Precisely. You make the constraint the bad guy, not yourself.
And finally, the alternative. Would you like to discuss that trade-off? I am literally forcing them to make the hard choice.
Which transforms them from a frustrated victim into a co-decision maker. Preserving their agency drops their frustration dramatically.
Okay, so we've covered the verbal combat. Live de-escalation, managing scope creep and resetting expectations.
But there's one final piece to this puzzle.
Right. What happens when we loop all the way back to the beginning? The silent client.
Yes. What happens when the conflict isn't on a phone call, but through a cold, unyielding email thread?
Written communication is an entirely different beast. Email strips away your tone, your empathy, all of it.
It is a permanent legal record. A cold medium requires a highly strategic approach.
So we need an ironclad email structure.
The subject line has to be highly specific. Update on Project X action needed is good.
What's bad? Following up again is terrible.
But the opening of the email is where the biggest psychological shift happens.
Let's say a client sends a nasty email. The overwhelming human instinct is to type, "I am so sorry for the confusion."
Yes. And doing that in writing is a massive, fatal error if the issue isn't explicitly your fault.
But it feels so unnatural to open an email to a furious person without typing, "I'm sorry." Why is that such a mistake?
Because without the warmth of a human voice, an apology in an email reads as a pure admission of liability.
Ah,
It instantly shifts the power dynamic. Before the facts are even established, you have legally taken the blame.
so what do I type instead?
You replace "I'm sorry" with "Thank you for your email. I want to address your concerns directly."
That feels so much stronger. You shift immediately to owning the resolution.
It completely changes your posture from defensive to proactive.
And that proactive posture is vital for the next part, the documentation phrase.
The ultimate shield against the silent client who later claims they never agreed to a delay.
Okay, what is the phrase?
It's simple but unbreakable, per our conversation earlier today, or, as we discussed on Tuesday, the agreed scope includes.
So every time you have a verbal check-in, you follow it up with an email containing this phrase.
Yes, this is your armor.
But doesn't that feel a little aggressive? Like you're building a legal case against them?
It only feels aggressive if you do it angrily. If it's just your standard operating procedure, it feels like rigorous project management.
It creates an undeniable historical record.
Exactly. Because if you send an email outlining the constraints using per our conversation and they don't reply,
Wait, their silence becomes your asset.
yes, their silence becomes implicit, documented agreement to the terms you just laid out.
You are literally weaponizing their own ghosting against them. That is brilliant.
It really is.
So looking back at the journey we've taken today, we've completely mapped out the life cycle of a difficult professional dynamic.
We covered the 4 types and unpacked the framework of de-escalation: acknowledging, validating without admitting fault, and owning the next step.
We explored how to use the pushback spectrum for scope creep and how to use the bad news sandwich to preserve client agency.
And finally, mastering written communication with the documentation phrase.
Having these exact phrases in your back pocket means you never have to panic at a 9 p.m. Friday email again.
It is the ultimate shift from being reactive to being highly strategic.
So I want to ask you, the listener, what is the most challenging client situation you've ever handled? Tell us.
Yeah, and which of these specific phrases are you adding to your professional toolkit tomorrow?
Definitely let us know. But as we wrap up this deep dive, there's one final, broader implication I think we should talk about.
I'm intrigued. What is it?
Well, we've spent this entire time analyzing these linguistic tools like validating without admitting fault as a strictly corporate strategy, right?
Right, for protecting your margins and your career.
But step out of the office for a second. Consider your personal life.
Okay.
If this framework is scientifically designed to lower human emotional temperature, if it bypasses the fight or flight response to make someone feel deeply heard without you taking undue blame, couldn't this exact same script be the ultimate secret weapon for diffusing a heated argument with your partner or your family?
I hear you. Your frustration is valid. Let's figure out the next step. You're totally right.
That's not just a client management strategy. That is a fundamental human relationship strategy.
It's a way to navigate conflict with empathy and boundaries, literally anywhere.
Definitely something to mull over the next time tensions run high, whether that's in the boardroom or, in your own living room.